Hello everybody, I'm some Loudmouth on the internet with an opinion. Something that everyone who produces and distributes content on the internet will eventually have to deal with is copyright law. And starting this channel required me to do lots of research in what is okay and not okay to post online. Particularly if you do what I do and make reviews of copyrighted works, since my reviews require using part of those copyright works in my material. The legality of such distribution is protected under a legal precedent known as fair use. Fair use is kind of a loophole in copyright law that allows users to distribute copyrighted works without the owner's permission and without compensating them if it's for certain very specific parameters, among them being commentary, criticism, as well as parody. In order to qualify as fair use, though, the work needs to fit several parameters. It needs to be transformative and in many ways be very different from the original product. Thus, if it's too similar to the original product, they'll rule that it's not a fair use. It also has to serve a very completely different purpose from the original. For example, one of my reviews falls under this because you don't watch one of my reviews to watch the movies I review, you watch one of my reviews to watch my criticisms and commentary of the movies I review. Thus, under fair use, my videos should be legally safe, right? Well, as every content creator knows,
you are not safe.
Living with the risk of abuse of the YouTube copyright system taking down your channel is a risk every content creator has. The Digital Millennium Copyright Act, also called the DMCA, was a piece of legislation passed in 1998 in order to combat budding online piracy. It gave copyright owners sweeping powers in order to remove copyrighted content on the internet and gave stricter penalties to people who pirated programs online. Remember that if you evoke the DMCA in order to take down somebody else's video, you are filing a legal document. If you lie in a legal document, you are committing perjury. You are committing a serious crime. And thus, if you file one of these without considering the fair use qualities of the video, you are committing perjury. In the case of Lenz versus Universal Music Corp., it was ruled by the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals in September of 2015 that Universal Movie Corp. Overstepped its bounds in issuing a takedown notice against a video of a baby singing to Prince's Let's Go Crazy, ruling that it was a clear fair use and that companies that violate fair use rights and issue takedown notices without taking fair use into account are breaking the law. Another notable case came from December of 2015 when the show South Park, which of course is a satirical comedy show, decided to do a parody of a famous YouTube video. The parody is known as What in the Butt.
I said what in the butt. I said what in the butt.
They were sued saying that they didn't have a right to copy this video. But of course South Park won the lawsuit saying that the copied portions of the video served a completely different purpose than the original video, and thus it was a clear fair use and a parody, making fun of the ridiculousness of the original video. Yet despite these legal rulings, false DMCA takedown notices still continue to fly out all over the net on an almost daily basis. Frequently those that send out these claims do so without taking fair use into account, and many do so without even knowing what fair use is. Of course, YouTube does allow you to appeal false claims, but there's a lot of caveats to that. Is that in order to appeal a false claim on a video, YouTube requires you fork over personal information of yours to your false flagger. My account isn't anonymous, so this isn't as much of an issue for me, but for users that value their anonymity and whose opinions could have real-life consequences for them, this leaves them with a precarious situation of either leaving their account in bad standing or potentially forking over their identity to a doc-dropping psychopath. Either option sucks. But even without the fears of losing anonymity, the mere threat of a possible lawsuit can oftentimes be more than enough in order to silence any form of free speech. You see, the main reason why abuse of copyright law continues despite these rulings is oftentimes abusers of the system know that their victims won't be able to fight back. Because fighting back in court takes money, it takes resources, it takes time that most people just don't have. So the system is often rigged in a way that even when you win, you lose. Because oftentimes the financial toll on you was far worse than it ever was on your false flagger, if that person was even penalized in the slightest. I've compiled a list of 10 of the worst abuses of the DMCA in recent years. These are nowhere close to all abuses of the DMCA takedown notice, but these are 10 of the most notable. So let's move on to number 10. Number 10. The crazy Russian hacker silences criticism of his suicide machine. For those of you who are maybe not familiar with the YouTube user Thunderfoot, real name Phil Mason, he is a famous chemist who has contributed over 34 peer-reviewed scientific papers and continues to work in fields of chemistry and nuclear physics. On YouTube, he's mostly known for debunking various pseudoscience, using his wit and knowledge of his fields. So when a large user who calls himself the Crazy Russian Hacker built an incredibly dangerous device to make a homemade air conditioner with carbon dioxide dry ice, Mason made a video explaining why this is stupid and insane.
So the so-called Crazy Russian Hacker has come up with this pretty much suicidal idea for an air conditioner using dry ice and a fan, with this stuff evaporating into the room, because there's a very real chance that you will never wake up. Bottom line is, if you want to cool a place down, a place that probably doesn't have good airflow, using a gas that will rapidly induce unconsciousness and death once its concentration gets up to about 10% is just a really dumb way of doing it.
This video is a very important one. The Crazy Russian Hacker has almost 7 million subscribers. If even a handful of them were to take his dangerous advice, people could die. Thunderfoot, by making this video, actually may have saved a few lives. So what does the Crazy Russian Hacker do? Does he apologize for his incorrect advice? Does he apologize for advising people to build a machine that could potentially kill them? Nope. Instead, he fits Thunderfoot with a copyright strike on his channel.
And from a Darwin Award standpoint, it's about as sensible as proposing heating your car with your exhaust.
Yep, false DMCA takedown notices here are not just being used as a means to silence criticism. Much worse than that, they are being used as a means of putting people's lives in danger. It's similar to when YouTube demonetized various suicide prevention videos. It's a great example of how a simple misguided policy can often have real horrifying consequences that the creators don't even think about. Mason appealed this claim, and in a couple weeks his account was thankfully back in good standing. But the Crazy Russian Hacker's account was not in any way penalized for his false claim, and to my knowledge, Phil Mason has not initiated any legal action against him, preferring to move on from this incident. And that really is the problem. And the Where's the Fear of the Use movement really needs legal victories, and here none were to be had. Number 9. Brad Jones gets a copyright claim for footage he shot in his car. Most who are familiar with Channel Awesome's Brad Jones know him as the Cinema Snob, where he reviews obscure low-budget movies and pornos. Many of these have been the subject of unjust copyright claims. Unjust, but unfortunately not at all unexpected. Like I said, if you use any edited clips of any kind in your videos, you need to prepare for abuse of the YouTube copyright system. I myself have had to fight off at least half a dozen completely illegitimate claims against my videos. The reason why I'm highlighting this case is because it's even bigger outrage when they target for claims videos that contain no copyrighted material at all. One series Brad Jones uploads on his channel is his Midnight Screening series. In this, Brad Jones and a friend of his will see a recently released movie in the theater, and they will simply talk about that movie in their car, without any clips of the movie whatsoever. We did the same thing on this channel. I have this incredibly handsome friend of mine named Jim do quick thoughts videos on recent movies every now and then. He looks and sounds exactly like me, but his videos are a little less scripted. You would think videos like this would be safe from unfair strikes since they contain no copyrighted footage whatsoever. Nope!
I received a strike on my account on one of the Midnight Screenings reviews, which is a series I do in which me and another person sit in a car in a parking lot after going to see a movie in the theater, and we just talk about the movie. There's no clips, no footage, it is just us sitting in a car talking about a movie.
That's right, people. Movie studios now actually think they own the rights to the inside of your car. What else do you think you own the rights to? How about my wall? How about my book? How about my couch? Wait, what if somebody owns my copyright? What if my face is copyrighted by somebody I don't even know? That violates the 13th Amendment. Oh no! No, don't! None of that. Number 8. TED Talk tries to silence Bering for criticizing a speaker. The format of TED Talks is a format I highly approve of, and I much enjoy some of the talks on this show, as you frequently invite speakers who help spread very interesting and intelligent ideas to the public. This is why their slogan is, "Ideas worth spreading." Or at least it should be. The YouTube user known as Bearing, who mostly makes videos critical of feminism, made a response to a TED Talk using only small portions in order to respond to it. Again, a clear, fair use. The video was of a woman named Laci Green, who in it tries to advocate fat acceptance, aka that people should not be ashamed to be overweight and that obesity is perfectly acceptable. You know, despite overwhelming medical evidence that obesity is incredibly unhealthy.
I want a balloon.
You've already got one.
Yep, while those behind TEDx are very supportive of fat acceptance, but not so supporting of the acceptance of opposing points of view, as they tried to silence Bearing for criticizing their speaker. That's right. TEDx, the organization whose slogan is Ideas Worth Spreading, actually sent a copyright claim against Bearing's video for criticizing a speaker of theirs. It's worth noting that the original video of Bearing explaining this situation, last time I checked, is still down. Bearing's whole channel was removed for a while due to a completely unrelated issue, also having to do with copyright, but one that was far more legitimate, as his use of a bear from Total Drama Island certainly did not fall under fair use. So I've had to rebuild this case a bit from memory and other sources. Still had to include this one, as it is an outrage that an organization that is supposedly devoted to spreading ideas thinks abusing copyright law to silence responses to their content is in any way acceptable. While Bearing hasn't been perfect in terms of following copyright law, his use of those few minutes of that TED Talk in order to gauge a response to it was absolutely not only his right to fair use, but also his free speech. Get on spreading ideas, Ted. Stop silencing them. Number 7. Derek Savage impersonates law firm. I hate everything, you sexy, cynical bastard. If you aren't familiar with him, he makes a living ranting against various pop culture trends, websites, and bad movies on the occasion. Alex at I Hate Everything has been a supporter of the Where's the Fair Use movement from the start. He's now reached over 1 million subscribers, and he continues to go strong. One of these terrible movies he reviewed as part of his Search for the Worst list was a little children's movie called Cool Cat Saves the Kids. And as you can tell just by looking at it, it's a complete piece of shit. What is extremely ironic about the movie is that it deals with trying to teach kids how to deal with cyberbullies. The irony will be too much to comprehend by the end of this segment. Derek Savage, director of Cool Cat Saves the Kids, had the bright idea that nobody had a right to criticize his movie. Not only did he send a takedown notice to I Hate Everything, but also to Bob Shanks and Blinks, and several other online reviewers as well. He was on a mission to make sure that nobody was able to criticize his horrendous little movie. Yeah, Derek, gotta protect the dignity of a movie where a guy in a furry costume runs around your neighborhood talking to the local children about bullies. Yeah. He then went on to make a video on the matter that Your Movie Sucks has already done a brilliant takedown of, and that will be linked below in the description, in which Derek Savage completely gets everything about copyright law wrong.
Ignorance of the law is not an excuse.
But even that is not what landed him so high on this list. He took crazy cyberbullying to a whole new level. I Hate Everything did a video a while back where he showed very compelling evidence that Derek Savage was guilty of impersonating a law firm in order to try to silence him. I Hate Everything received an email earlier this year from a so-called Shapiro law firm telling him to take down a few videos of his in the name of various filmmakers. At first he was scared, but then after investigating it with the help of Adam from Your Movie Sucks, they started to realize that this email was almost certainly fraudulent.
Oh yeah, and there's the part where if you try to Google their name, you get no results because they don't exist.
They were even able to get in contact with filmmakers who were supposed clients in the email, all of whom denied having ever sent the email or having anything to do with Derek Savage. And he was able to later goat Savage's ego and determine who was responsible for it.
Surprise, surprise, he took the bait. Did you seriously get the Jurassic Shark lawyers to email me? Derek, I'm pretty scared right now. What am I supposed to do? What do you want from me? Please help me and get them to back down. I'll do anything. He pretty much confirmed that it was him by saying, I'm glad to hear they've already contacted you and have had great conversations with 2 other producers who are approaching their legal team today. This is not a game. You are violating United States copyright law and you are slandering me and my reputation.
You know, if Savage was concerned about his reputation, pretending you are representing filmmakers who you've had no previous contact with, impersonating a law firm, and using impersonated information to try to threaten and extort somebody, are very bad ways to improve your reputation. As a matter of fact, many of those things seem like crimes. And if all this wasn't loathsome enough, he actually went to Twitter and threatened to dox the home addresses of everyone who made parodies of his videos. Posting personal information of somebody's with clear malicious intent is also cyber harassment and possibly criminal threats. What was that you said about the law?
Ignorance of the law is not an excuse.
I so agree. Number 6, Family Guy steals video and Fox tries to take down the original video. In May of 2016, the long-running Fox comedy series Family Guy ran an episode where Peter and his friends play an old video game from the 80s.
All right, bring it up to court. And corner 3! No, that's what I'm talking about. Steal!
The only funny thing about this clip is that Family Guy did not invent that footage. All the gameplay in this clip was taken from a YouTube play video that was uploaded back in 2009, a full 7 years before this episode aired.
All right, bring it up to court. And corner 3! No, that's what I'm talking about. Steal! Up, corner 3! I got something cooking. Oh, you dropped something. Now head over in this direction. Corner 3!
Family Guy's use of this footage could well fall under fair use, as they were using the footage to make fun of the original game, more specifically a glitch in the graphics, as you noted that Peter was kept taking advantages in the game. But I kind of think a major network series really should be reinventing their own footage, rather than just taking clips from YouTube, just as a personal thing. But that really doesn't matter much. What does matter is what happened after this clip aired. Switched, the YouTube channel that originally aired the footage, got a takedown notice from Fox claiming he was part of the Family Guy episode, even though the YouTube video predates the episode by several years. Do you realize how insane that is? That's the equivalent of me using clips of a Fox movie in one of my reviews, and then later me going to 20th Century Fox's website and personally claiming their movies because they use footage I later used in my reviews. That is how insane this is. To be fair to Fox, they quickly reinstated the video and released their claim. But honestly, this incident reveals a huge flaw in the YouTube copyright system. Without the aid of a time machine, it is 100% impossible to copy something before it was created. Therefore, it should be impossible to claim a video that's been online longer than what you're claiming it for. Get on fixing that, YouTube. Number 5. The Cristiano Film Group tries to get the Bible Reloads channel removed from YouTube for negative reviews. I already made a video about this one, so I'll try to be a little brief, but I definitely feel it had to be included. As you may well already know, the Bible Reloads Hugo and Jay are currently involved in a lawsuit against the Christian film company Cristiano Films. As you may know, Hugo and Jay specialize in mocking religious material, and thus have made less than favorable reviews of many Cristiano movies. The incident that spurred Hugo and Jay to initiate their lawsuit was when the Cristiano Film Company, who was never satisfied and had been hounding them for a long time, even when Hugo and Jay reduced their reviews to mere images rather than moving clips, still eventually filed 5 takedown notices against Hugo and Jake's videos all at once. If all 5 had been accepted, their channel would be gone. And some of the videos they flagged didn't contain any kind of copyrighted material whatsoever. YouTube themselves deserve credit this time for not deleting the channel. It's standard procedure when a channel gets 3 strikes or more to automatically delete the channel, but YouTube instead did the right thing this time and refused to delete their channel and informed them that what they were doing was probably a fair use. YouTube deserves praise for doing the right thing in this instance, but this should be the rule. It should not be the exception. Every channel deserves a grace period to sort out copyrighted claims that are sent to them. No one should be able to file multiple copyright claims all at once and delete a channel overnight. Such things should not be possible, but the broken YouTube copyright system has allowed that for many other channels. Number 4. Channel Awesome gets a strike from Studio Ghibli for promoting their movie. One of the things that convinced Channel Awesome's Doug Walker, known primarily as the Nostalgia Critic, to get involved in political activism for fair use was this rather bizarre and nonsensical copyright strike he received. Every December, Doug Walker has been doing Disney-cember, where throughout the month he makes short reviews of various Disney movies, usually in a less comedic fashion than as his Nostalgia Critic character. In 2014, he mostly decided to focus on reviewing the Japanese Studio Ghibli movies, as they are distributed and dubbed in America by Disney, and the reviews were of course overwhelmingly positive. Who wouldn't make overwhelmingly positive reviews? Yet Channel Awesome got a copyright strike from Studio Ghibli over their 4-minute review of My Neighbor Totoro.
You have this art form of animation, anything you can draw can suddenly exist, and yet they use it to tell the story of only a few fantastical things and focus more on the human characters. Something about keeping it so minimal actually makes you appreciate what's on screen even more. At least from my point of view.
Not only did Doug Walker's review clearly fall under fair use, more than that, it was free promotion. All Doug Walker did in the review was tell people to go see their movie in a market and to a fan base that Studio Ghibli would like to reach. And yet, Walker gets rewarded for his help with a copyright strike on his then 350,000 person channel. Worse than just leaving a strike on their channel, though, YouTube actually disabled Channel Awesome's monetization for 3 weeks, forcing the entire company of Channel Awesome, which is a small business that employs a few people, to live without any money for 3 weeks. Now I know why the people of Studio Ghibli vanished, because no matter how good your technology is, the world cannot live without love. Number 3. Warner copyright flags their own site. Time Warner, the company that owns the rights to more movies than any other company on the planet. Yeah, you'd think they would know better. This one is less infuriating and more just funny, but I thought I'd include it just for how unbelievably surreal it is. Warner, like most studios, have complained in the past about pirated movies being too easy to find on Google, so they had a solution: send out mass Google flags against their own website. I swear, I'm not kidding. Warner sent takedown notices against several sites they own, including their own sites for The Dark Knight, The Matrix, and several others. Now you might be saying, whatever, they're only hurting themselves with such boneheaded moves, and to a limited extent, yes they are, but you really need to think about it. If they're not even willing to take 10 seconds out of their time to make sure they aren't accidentally flagging one of their own domains, do you really think they are going to take the time to consider the fair use qualities of somebody else's video before they flag it? This case is a shocking and yet at the same time frightening example of just how little thought goes into most copyright claims made online. Number 2. Laci Green learns to law. Kermit the Frog once said, "It's not easy being green." Unfortunately, Kermit was wrong. It is easy being green. More specifically, it's way too easy being MTV's Laci Green. From fighting the evils of children's Halloween costumes to arguing that biological sex isn't real. Fucking really? To whining about how terrible it is that men have due process of law, it's hard to find more vapid and brainless content on YouTube than her incoherent rants. Yet despite that, she has over 1 million subscribers and works for MTV. So basically she's like the Michael Bay of YouTube then. Big and explosive, but lacking any substance. While, as I've made it clear, I am no fan of her content, I would never remove her right to speak, and the right of her audience, if anyone is dumb enough to take her seriously, to listen to her. The reason why I'm talking about her today is because she has not been so considerate to her critics. When a YouTube user who goes by the name Roaming Millennial, pictured right here, Wait. What was I talking about again? Oh, fair use. That's right. Rolling Millennial did a response video to Laci Green discussing the supposed harm Halloween costumes pose to society, as well as claims of cultural appropriation across the board. And overall was a very fantastically well thought out, well researched and well presented video that was a great response to nonsense claims about cultural appropriation, which, because it involved Laci Green, used a picture of her in the thumbnail of her video, which is absolutely a very clear fair use. The video was a commentary and a criticism of Laci Green's ideas, and it used very little of Laci Green's original video, and thus did not harm the market of Laci's video. It was fair use across the board, but Laci didn't think so. It's a copyright violation to use someone's image to make money. Learn to law. Not learn the law, learn to law. Oh yeah, she's totally not an airhead. But let's see if she's fully consistent in her belief that it's a copyright violation to use someone else's image in your thumbnails. How about that time you used Toby Turner's face in one of your thumbnails? You know, that same video where you slander him as a rapist because you read it in a Tumblr blog? In fact, you've made videos with other people's image in your thumbnails dozens of times, and I'm sure none of them gave you permission to do so. She went as far as to report Roaming Millennial's video to YouTube as a copyright violation. This did not sit well with many YouTube users. When many other users, including big longtime user Philip DeFranco, called Laci Green out on her bullying a smaller channel, Laci did what she always does, play the victim. She made a video whining about, get this, that a bigger YouTuber than her was bullying her and going after her.
It's like rain.
Because you know what, there are things to be angry about in the world right now.
Cry me a river. You would think this special snowflake would have learned her lesson after the massive backlash against her after what she did to Roaming Millennial. Well, no. She didn't learn a thing. She later made another false claim to a channel run by a guy named Johnny Fox, who at the time had less than 3,000 subscribers. And thankfully, this case didn't take me 6 hours to complete. Thanks for that, Laci. Worse than that, she not only sent a false copyright claim for a video that was a clear fair use, she actually monetized his video. She stole the earnings of a guy who has nearly 1/500th the number of subscribers she does. How do you sleep at night? How do you live with yourself being so horrible? The fact that YouTube, to my knowledge, has done absolutely nothing to Laci to punish her channel for abusing the YouTube copyright system does show YouTube's stunning apathy in preventing larger channels from bullying smaller ones. Laci Green with her MTV connections brings in the cash, while you with only a few thousand or a few hundred subs don't. So YouTube never moves to punish bigger channels for abusing the system. So Laci, here's a picture of you. Roaming Millennial has only come back much stronger despite your attempts to silence her just because you didn't like her opinions. And I hope all other channels that you have attempted to bully come back stronger as well. And if anyone else out there was ever harmed by Laci Green's abuse of the copyright system, I believe you. And one day I hope the world does too. And the number one abuse of the DMCA copyright system is when Happy Madison Studios removes all mention of the word pixels from Vimeo.com. Just when you thought it was impossible to hate Happy Madison Pictures any more than you already do, they go and pull one of the worst abuses of copyright law I've ever heard of. I already reviewed their disgusting piece of trash known as That's My Boy, easily one of the most vile movies I have ever seen. But it turns out that we have another reason to hate this cancer of a film company. In 2015, Happy Madison released the movie Pixels through Sony Pictures. Like everything else Happy Madison has made in the past several years, it was a terrible movie, and many took to the net to express their disdain for it.
Pixels is the worst thing to happen to video games since the CDI, microtransactions, YouTube screamers, voice chat, and the death of the Dreamcast combined. Summation, fuck this movie, fuck everyone who made this movie, and if you pay money to watch this movie, fuck you too.
You're too damn nice, movie Bob. Critics panned the movie as yet another piece of brainless sexist trash that Happy Madison puts out on a near regular basis. And many made video reviews taking aim at it as well, telling people to not waste their money on it. You know, you would think in response to one of their movies being both a commercial and critical flop would be to, try a little harder next time to make a decent movie. Put a bit of effort and actually create a movie that entertains someone whose IQ is higher than 4? Right?
Right?
Nope, being brainless dickheads got Happy Madison this far, why change what works? Yentura International, an anti-piracy group hired by Sony Pictures, took to the video sharing site Vimeo in order to protect the movie's copyright. And in one of the most outrageous abuses of copyright in history, they went as far as to give copyright strikes to every single video that even mentions the word pixels in the title. Many of these videos were online for several years before Happy Madison's terrible movie ever entered production. Again, how is it possible to do that? They were so overly zealous, they even took down the original short this movie was based on, as well as the movie's own trailer. I'm not even kidding. Wow. Thankfully, Yentura eventually did release all their copyright claims, and all the affected videos were restored. But the chilling effect on criticism of the movie at a critical time the movie needed for success was already achieved. Oh, and even though Sandler himself probably had nothing to do with the takedown notices, I still blame him anyway for making such a shitty movie. In conclusion, abuse of copyright law is still very, very present in our society. Despite the defeat of legislation like SOPA, which would have essentially outlawed fair use, politicians and lobbyists still continue to rig the game in the favor of large content creators over the fair use rights of smaller ones. That is why it's always important to be vigilant on this subject. Remember that fair use is your legal right. Just as protection against unjustified search and seizures is your legal right. Just as the right to trial by jury is your legal right. But no right is self-enforcing. If nobody cares to protect a right, that right will quickly disappear. And also remember that if you defend the rights of any particular person, you're by de facto defending the rights of everybody. So, as always everybody, where's the fair use? I'm some loudmouth on the internet, and you just heard my opinion. If you like this video, please consider making a donation to my Patreon. Thank you.
Ignorance of the law is not an excuse.